our serious voice.
I'm being so serious.
I'm so serious right now, you can't even. Okay. I'm not gonna say didn't say the statistic. I'm so dumb. I'm gonna cut this and I will say the statistic. Hey, it's Althea.
And Maya.
And this is our podcast
with our powers combined.
Let's go! Welcome to episode 5 of our podcast. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. I've gotten to spend a lot of time with my niece and nephew recently, which I love because they are objectively the best and they are so much fun. But
yes,
they're especially fun because right now, Jaden's been asking a lot of questions about what school is.
Oh.
So we've been playing like pretend school and it's really fun because Ellie wants to play too.
That's so cute.
And Ellie doesn't know what school is. So Jaden will be like, "Oh, we're gonna like read," because we watched like Daniel Tiger. So he's like, "Oh, we're gonna read like circle time." And we're like, "Do you want to come?" And Ellie goes, "No." And she'll stand over and then she realizes kind of what we're doing. So then she'll kind of like saddle like a little closer, but it's very fun. And he goes, "No, you got to show me how to do it. You have to show me how," because he knows that in school, like a teacher tells you what to do. And it's really, really
That's
cute.
That's so cute.
Malachi does school, doesn't
Malachi, yes, he's homeschooling right now, so it's a lot of like online stuff. But so the thing is, he loves the activities, he loves everything, but he gets bored when everything goes slow. Especially because it's online, there's not a lot of like engagement with classmates and the teacher. So along like right in the middle of his school time, he's just like and it's like he just looks bored.
I can picture his little face so clearly.
But he's so cute because he loves art. And he does. And he draws so cute. He did like a little scribble art with his mom the other day. And it was like really cute. He put eyes in the scribbles and all the colors. He's very particular. And he knows exactly what he wants. So
yes,
that's really cute.
Jaden really, really likes art. But he does this, I don't understand him. He'll do this thing where he's like, I wanna draw this. And I'm like, okay, great, look. And he goes, come draw with me. So I'm like, let's go. So we'll sit down at the table. And then he'll go, Tia, you draw it for me. And I go, okay, yeah, like, do you want me to draw like part of it?
Yeah.
And he'll be like, yeah, draw like the elephant for me. So I'll draw the elephant. And then he goes, okay, I'm like, oh, it needs like a jungle. Should we draw a jungle? He goes, yeah. I said, what should we put on? And he goes, you should draw some grass. And I'm like, are you just gonna tell? I thought you wanted to color.
I love that for you, Jaden.
It's so funny. But the way that you can trick him is that if you tell him, okay, and you start to draw it wrong, he'll go, Tia, that's not what it looks like. And then he'll do it right. Because he's like, you're a fool. That's not what an elephant looks like. What are you doing?
Yes.
He'll adjust it. And then he'll go, but it's so relatable, is he'll be doing something, he'll go, am I doing a good job?
Am I doing a good job, Mom?
When Jaden gets to school, he's going to love gold star systems.
Yeah.
He's going to love a world where he gets a star for doing something. Yeah. He's going to be really excited about it. But also, I'm like, I can't make you exclusively positive feedback motivated. But also, it's really easy to watch you as a child when you're positive feedback motivated.
You're already there.
I'm like, it's really easy, but it's very sweet for him to go, oh, I like what you're doing with that like octopus, Tia. And I'll go, oh, thank you. And he goes, what do you like about my painting? Does it look really good?
Do I get a gold star for it?
I'm like, baby boy, he excels with clear directions.
That is me when I was younger.
With art or just anything?
With anything. I loved getting all the gold stars. I loved getting all of the A's. And I just thrived in achievement. I don't know what happened after school. After graduating.
I went to a school that I don't recall doing a lot. Like, I'm positive that we must have in kindergarten. We must have. Because that's like classic kindergarten is, oh, you cleaned up your desk before snack time.
Right.
And everyone who did gets to move to the green. Like, that's such classic that age. But I don't have any recollection of anything for elementary school. So I think that explains a lot about me as a person, because for most of my childhood, I was not motivated like that. I did want A's. I was just telling a friend this the other day, is I feel like I was motivated by spite a lot as a child. Someone would tell me they didn't think I could do that, and I would be like, actually, I can, and I'm going to do it better than anyone else on the planet, actually. Yes. But if someone was like, you can earn this about it, I was like, I'm not that interested. And they're like, it's a competition. And I was like, I have to win. Yes. I feel like I was more motivated by winning.
Yes.
That really meant a lot to me as a child, which I think says a lot about me.
For me, competition and also like the rewards. It's like, give me all the rewards. In our school, we had like a system where you get points for all the stars and stuff, and I was just like, I want that little mug right there. For 500 points, I'm gonna get it. So that's my motivation.
Like, that would definitely get me. That I wanted to do. Is I was like, I want to, like, whenever we did like book fairs and stuff, and it was like, oh, we're doing the readathon, and it's like, how many books? And it's like, last year, so like the biggest number was 20 books, and I was like, psh,
I can do so much
I'm
more.
gonna read so many more, and I would feel so excited because they'd be like, oh, we're reading what number? So and so read 5 books this week, so and they're like, and they'd get to me, they're like, and Maya read 25 books this week, and I'd be like, yes I did.
Yes I did.
I'm so strong and powerful. Like. And then same thing when we would do like out in kids' church, it would be store, and I was like, and the kids would go, oh my gosh, I'm gonna go buy the bouncy ball, and I was like, you fools, I'm saving up for the beaded hair kit. I'm gonna buy those where I can weave the little ribbons, and I can spell heart and put it like, and you can, it has a little hair crimper that totally burns your hair. I'm like, I'm gonna save up for that one.
I need to know all the scripture in the Bible.
Which my brother was the same way. Like, the kids would be like, oh, I'm gonna get the slinky. He's like, you fools, there's a skateboard available. If you can wait 2 more weeks, you can get a skateboard. There was a lot of competitive energy in my house. God bless my mother. She's not competitive.
She's not competitive?
She's honestly not. Oh. Like, she's a rule follower.
She is.
But she's not competitive. And she was always like, if I can succeed, why would I not? Yeah. But it wasn't like, and I'm going to be better than everyone else about it. Right. Me and Adrian were like, and I'm going to be better than everyone else about it. And my dad can get that way. My dad can get really, really competitive.
And that's where you get it from.
Yeah. It's really obvious.
I was more of a know-it-all. I just want to know everything.
Did you get that in like school where teachers would like write notes and be like, Thea has like a lot of questions, or like Thea feels very confident in her answers?
No, but so the thing is, I went to a private Christian school, and it was independent studies, and so really it's on your own pace. And so I was way ahead of all of the like the people in my class. I was way ahead most of the time. I was doing like, say, 5th grade math instead of 4th grade if I'm already in 4th grade. So it was pretty interesting, but that's why I'm like trying to grab all the stars and all the A's and all the things. So
you're like, I'm already so far ahead, I might as well just keep going.
Exactly.
That makes sense. I see where that would be at.
Yes.
No, I don't think about, I don't remember any kind of star system in school. I would definitely was a know-it-all kid. I was always the kid who was like, I know the answer.
I just remembered what I would do. My siblings can attest to this.
What would you do?
I would ask them a question. I would be like, do you know about like the solar system? Mm-hmm. And they would tell me, and then I would be like, oh, I already know it. I wouldn't even listen. I remember them scolding me about that because I would literally ask them questions, and I would always say, oh, I already know that.
That is so funny.
Yeah. Exactly.
Also, that feels so surprising.
But that's what I did.
I would not, based on the Thea I know here today, I would not expect that you would ask someone a question just to be like, I already knew that.
I've learned to be humble.
I've
learned to just like observe. So
with all of that knowledge, do you feel like you did like do you feel like you did good in the classroom setting, like all around? Do you feel like, oh, I excelled in like homework, like you were like, I nailed all the tests, I nailed the social interactions, like all of the school
Yes.
crushed it.
I was definitely, I love the school system because I also am a rule follower. So I love already knowing what I need to do. And I would just go for it. And I would just like say, oh yeah, I've reached that goal. I've gotten to that achievement. Like I've passed that test, you know? So I would say yes.
That makes sense.
How about you?
I feel like on the whole, kind of similar. I was always a fairly mainstream learner. So school in general was pretty easy for me. I definitely would get bored.
Yeah.
Which is usually why I got in trouble because I would either like I was like a talkative kid, so I would like lean over and I'd be like whispering to someone and they'd be like, Maya, your friend is trying to do their homework. Like they haven't finished the lesson yet. And I'm like, well, I'm already done. And they were like, shh, shush, please just be quiet. So there was a lot of that. I feel like I did the only tests I remember as a kid, like elementary school, not doing well on was my spelling test. I was so bad at spelling tests, which makes sense when I got older and we realized I have language processing and we went,
that makes sense.
It does make sense, especially like out loud. We'd like practice for those spelling tests by doing like mini spelling bees. We'd have to spell out loud, and I was like, I'm incapable of spelling out loud. Like I have to write it out, and they would be like, that's cheating, and I'm like, I'm spelling it out loud.
Right.
Like it's not like I have a piece of paper that I'm checking the spelling for.
Yeah.
I'm going, oh, believe is B.
You have to kind of see it,
and I have to like write where the letters go, and they're like, she's cheating. And I was like, I'm not cheating.
No.
And then as I got older and older, math got harder and harder, which I realized the other day. And I was like, yeah, I think I was really good at the memorization. And when I was younger, I was less good at the application. Hence, math was really hard because math is entirely application.
Yeah.
Whereas history is like, oh, do you remember when the Revolutionary War is? And I'm like, yes, I do. I know that number versus like, oh, do you know how to divide? And I'm like, no. I don't have that skill.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was always a challenge for me personally, which speaking of challenges, we should probably actually say what the title of this episode is. We were just getting
what
into it.
What could it be?
This episode is the power of TESS, ? Because it's a test and you have to get the correct answer at the end of this, which I think is fun. We were looking at just topics in general, and it started because we were talking about school and realizing that, man, there's like so many people who, when they think of school, the number one reason why they don't like school is because of tests. Is they're like, yeah, obviously I like seeing my friends. Everyone has a subject that they liked. Or like a teacher that they liked where they're like, yeah, I can get behind this. There were elements of school that were fun. They're like, oh, what was the worst part? They go, oh, finals, midterms. Yeah. Like the spelling test. Like, and anytime someone goes a worst memory of school that's like academic based, 9 times out of 10, it's the test. It's like the worst part of school. Yeah. Which makes sense. Do you feel like that was your worst part of school, or were there other things you were like, I hate this more?
I think more in my university days versus my elementary school days or like high school part of things. Because I feel like I think it always depends on a person, right? You said that we all have like our favorite subject or the subject that we excel on. Like if we took a test on that, we'd be like, yes, give me a test on that. But if it's like, say you on math and application, you're just like, no, don't give me that test. But I always get anxious with exams. But I think, in university, because it was more performance-based as a music education like major, that really like just crushed me a little bit. Having like performance anxiety, if you can believe it, it's just like it was difficult. It was hard. I thought I couldn't do it at times, but I think in that sense I've struggled more than like the testing academic part, because with the academic testing I could always like prepare with the reading and exams, but with the performance part I can always practice, but it's also always down to like the day of like, can I do the performance?
That is actually really funny, because I was doing research for this, thinking about tests, And the statistics on it are crazy. First and foremost, testing anxiety is actually now, officiality disputed, but you can be diagnosed as having like a specific branch of anxiety that is test anxiety.
Oh, wow.
Like that's actually become a thing. It's recognized. They have like treatment listed.
That's crazy.
Which is surprising.
Yeah.
There was also where 60% of students identify as bad test takers, saying even when they understand the material, that they still think that they're bad at it.
Yeah.
And then this was the one that was crazy to me. So there was a study done, over 300 college students. 91% of them believed that students who otherwise know the material can be bad test takers.
Wow.
91% of them were like, oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. And that is funny because there's so many different kinds of tests. Like, I feel like when you say I'm a bad test taker, I go back to being in like middle school, high school, and I'm sitting down and I'm supposed to be able to map out who were the empires of the Ottoman Empire. Or I'm in school and they're saying, oh yeah, list all the planets in the solar system. It's like a very classic write in, fill in the blank, A, B, or C kind of test. But then I'm like, there are so many kind of tests that you take in school. Like my favorite tests were like in English class, it was mostly essays, but they were our exams.
Yeah.
Because that was, I pretty much never took sometimes I guess I took quizzes on the material, but largely it was written. Yeah. And I was like, I got this because I could prepare, I could strategize, I was able to like really focus in. Yeah. Same with presentation based tests. I was actually usually pretty good at, usually because I was pretty good on my feet. So when teachers, they say, oh, we're opening the floor to questions, or like, how well do you know information? I could just present it with enough confidence that it seemed like, oh, she must know what's going on. Yeah. And even, I was just talking about this with my parents as we were remembering different projects. We used to do book reports, and you could get extra credit if you dressed up. So I don't remember the author, I should have looked it up beforehand, but it was The Trumpeter Swan. And I came to class, I think I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, dressed like a swan. So like with a full little like white boa, and I had the little, and I did my little report, and I was A, adorable, but B, like so confident and like ready to tell you all about this book, about this trumpeter swan who literally plays the trumpet while I'm dressed like a swan. And I was like so excited. If I can find pictures, we'll post them. Yeah. But there's so many different kinds of tests, but I feel like the classic one of just sitting down and filling out information, and I think probably like spoken tests, like oral exams, really stress people out. Yeah. Because it really feels like, okay, did I remember any of the stuff that I read last night frantically on the bus on the way to school? And then the moment of, gosh, I know it in my head, but can I articulate it? Yes. Is like a really common feeling. Yes. Which makes sense.
I'm pulling up a statistic that I have right here.
Yeah, go for it.
And it was about, hold on, it's like cramming versus spaced learning. And I was like, I'm not going to say, didn't say the statistic. I'm so dumb. I'm going to cut this and I will say the statistic. Okay, so it says spaced repetition or studying over time improves retention by up to 50% compared to cramming the night before an exam. And I would just like to say, students over there, I've done this too. I've crammed so much, and I'm just like, the anxiety just lessens when I know I'm prepared for an exam. Yeah. Like when I know that I know the information that's gonna be in the exam. So I'm just gonna say, try not to cram. Don't be like me.
Yeah, I know that everyone claims it works, but it really doesn't work long term.
No.
You're lying to yourself. You know that when you got to the final exam, you didn't remember what was on the like midterm. You didn't. Don't lie to yourself. You know you had to look at it again. Yes. Like it doesn't it does not last long term. You may be able to regurgitate it for your first period of class. You do not remember 3 months later what the information was. Not when you're cramming like that. It's really sad because I definitely have had moments where I was like, I'm gonna cram, and I got a good grade on the test. I was like, nailed it, and then I would get to the final exam and I was like, why don't I remember any of it? I know I took this exam. So it was literally the same. I would go back, sometimes it was literally the exact same question, and I was like, I got it wrong the second time.
You're trying to remember how it's spaced out in the paper and like how you write it down. You're just like, how did I write this? What's the spelling on this? I know exactly what the answer is.
I do think it makes sense though also that tests feel so like scary because tests are usually like behind the scenes. They're usually weighted more like in your grade book, and you talk about like it's your final, it's your midterm, this is like your last chance for this. Like teachers hype it up. Your teachers and professors really hype it up to make it feel like a lot. And it does feel like the moment of, man, I've been studying this for 6 weeks. I have been on this subject, and you're like, what if I actually don't know anything? What, like, this is my test trauma. In 8th grade, for some godforsaken reason, I was allowed to take Algebra 1. I don't know why. I don't know what test I passed to make people think I was smart enough to take Algebra 1, because I wasn't. And I did, for me, very bad in the class. I was struggling on tests to get passing grades. I did not understand anything. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to focus up. I'm going to do it. I'm going to pass this exam. And our math teacher had given us both, some of them were his tutorials and some of them was the tutorials that he like really recommended of like tutors going through the units. And I studied nonstop. I'd even been sick for a little bit, and even on the day that I was sick, I was watching the lesson and learning how to do it. And I got there for the day of the test, and I had studied the wrong unit.
Oh no!
So I got a D on the test. It was the first time I had ever gotten anything less than a B on an exam, and then I got a D. Oh, and man. I cried.
I would too.
Because I had probably legitimately spent 5 hours over the course of like the last like 3 weeks studying for this test, because I knew I didn't understand it. And I remember going to my teacher with tears in my eyes telling him, I studied the wrong unit. If I was looking at next week's, like at our next unit, can I please take it again? I'm not dumb. I just studied the wrong thing. And I was devastated. I don't remember if he let me take it again because I blacked out.
After that, you're just like, I don't know.
I just remember being in the next unit and being like, I still don't even super know how to do this. And I spent 5 hours studying it. But it was devastating. I would not have ever described myself as a bad test taker, and I felt like such a bad test taker in that moment.
Oh my god.
It was brutal.
That's terrible.
It was brutal. I felt very similarly when I had to do my my CBEST to get my teaching credential. And I was so mad. There's like all these options for you to not have to take it. So if you took the ACT and got certain scores, you can. Or if you took the AP exam and got certain scores, you don't have to. Or if you took the SAT and got certain scores, you don't have to. In all of the scores, I exceeded the minimum for the English. And for none of them did I meet the math requirement.
Oh my god.
So I asked the teacher, can I just take the math?
Yeah.
Because it's cheaper to take just one than to take both. And I was like, and B, I know I'm going to pass the English.
Yeah.
I've passed all 3 of the other exams.
Yeah.
Can I please just take the math? And she said, no. You have, because you don't meet in both, you have to take both. So I do. And I failed the math portion by 1 point.
Stop. That's horrible.
One point.
They could have just given it to you.
And the reason that I failed was because I didn't have enough time, because I had to take 2 exams.
Because you had to take the English one too.
Yes. And I had to write an essay and like answer.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I'm not gonna write so I exceeded the minimum by a lot for the English, and I failed the math by 1 point, so I had to reschedule to take it again.
Another one?
Yes, and luckily they let me just take the math portion.
Oh, perfect.
And so I had like 2.5, 3 hours to take a single math test, and I beat the requirement by like 5, and I was like, why would you let me do this the first time? I was really, really mad. So those are my traumatic math-related stories.
My traumatic exam stories. Oh, man. Not... Again, I'm going back to college more. But it really is the piano exams, man. And so I didn't go to music school for a music performance degree. And so I'm not in no way, shape, or form thinking that I'm going to be a piano performer, a pianist. Mm-hmm. And I could just like meet the requirements. I'm like, thank God I passed in this school. And I could plug the keys. But I've always just felt like behind on everything piano related, because I wasn't, in terms of population and students and stuff, a lot of the people there are trained classical musicians. I'm not. At 8 or 9, 10 years old, I had 2 years of piano lessons. Then from then on, it was just me by myself playing the keys. And then I went into college, and I was like, at 18, 19, I was like, okay, I think I want a career related to music. And that was my instrument, piano. And so I was like, okay, let me just try it. And so I had like a couple of like piano lessons here and there. And thankfully, I have a talent in just learning the songs, and like my hearing is better than my sight reading. And that was always the problem in my piano lessons in university. I'm so bad at sight reading. And so I've had to work more than my peers. And that's why every time I get to the piano jury exams, my anxiety level is higher, like through the roof than normal, because I'm like, I've done all I could, I've practiced, and I'm just like, I don't want to fail. Yeah. And so performing in a room with 3 people who are master pianists, and it's just like a cold room.
I feel anxiety as you're talking about it. I'm like picturing it so clearly, and I can feel like my heart rate just got a little elevated.
Yes, but like cold room, and they just goes in and plays her sonatas and everything, and I'm just like, Lord help me. I've obviously like passed everything. I've graduated.
You got a whole degree about it.
In the moment, just like that performance anxiety, because it's still an exam.
Yeah.
It just like got to me. I literally remember every single time after my exams, I'm just like crying, breaking down. Even before that, I was just like crying, breaking down. I was just like, I don't know what else to do. I'm not supposed to be here. No. But they're pretty good at telling you exactly what you need to work on. Pianists are very cutthroat.
Tears streaming down your face. Thank you for your feedback.
Exactly. But they've passed me, thankfully. But it was always such a pain, like knowing that exam is coming.
There's something you said that I think is really interesting, where you said because you had to work harder, you also felt like there was more of that, which is the same way that I felt about my math test.
Yeah.
It was the one thing in school that didn't come naturally to me. Yeah. And I knew that I had to work harder, and it always, like, for me, the feeling that compounded was like, I'm dumb and I'm like less than the other students because... And especially, I think, because I was so good at all my other subjects, it was like, why am I so bad at this one? Yeah. Why can I, without hesitation, write a fantastic essay in 20 minutes? Yeah. But I'm the last person in the room leaving my pre-algebra class. And, like, I have to go to tutoring because I don't understand. With, like, the quote-unquote dumb kids. And then the kid who does good in all the classes. Like, this is my secret dumb kid moment. Like, I think that's where a lot of fear comes in with tests. Like, even I know so many kids, like my peers, and then later when I was teaching, who they never wanted to go in for tutoring or for retakes. And I was like, why not? And they were like, I don't want people to know that I'm dumb. Like, that, I think that's so much of the feeling around like a test in school is it feels like this is the moment where I show people whether or not I'm stupid.
Right.
Which is not true.
Yes.
But that's the way it can feel. And I think one of the worst ways you can feel is stupid. People hate feeling stupid.
Yeah.
And I think something that's really sad that we don't talk about is that tests don't stop when you leave school.
Exactly.
Like, you will continue to encounter tests. And it's actually interesting. I saw something that said as many as 70 to 80% of high school students report feeling unprepared once they leave high school. Just for life. From like practical skills to how to get a job to how to succeed in like a collegiate level. 70 to 80% of high schoolers feel like they don't know what their next step is and they have no idea how to succeed. It's like, man, it feels like you just went from one test to another, but no one gave you a study guide. At least my teacher used to give me a study guide, and now I'm here and there are like tests, like going in for a job interview. That's a test. Yeah. Like, literally, it is a test. They are testing you to see whether or not you fit in at this company. Yeah. Like, when you're applying for internships, when the application process to things are tests. And learning new things. Like, you don't, it's such a cliche to be like, you never stop learning. You never stop learning. No. And that can also mean that you never stop taking tests. And if you don't figure out a way to deal with those feelings associated with like taking a test and the feelings associated with failing, then every challenge you encounter in life, you're going to have that same sense of dread and it's going to hold you back.
Yeah. I think to that point as well that you're saying, like, about feelings and stuff, again, it could be a cliche thing to say, but really test doesn't determine your identity or value as a person. I think even with me going to that piano room and taking that test, it did feel like it was me. Like, I am a failure. Like, I am lacking something, so I'm not valuable in this way. And because I'm going for a music education degree, when it felt like there was so much pressure in that room, it felt like I was just like, oh no, this is the end of the world for me. Like, I cannot get a job. Like, I'm not going to get my degree. Like, all of those things. But it's not true. It's not true, because at the end of the day, after you take that test, there's always opportunities that will arise for you. There's always chances. And so I love that. Again, it's the feelings don't define us. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you feel like since leaving school are like sorts of tests that you've encountered? Moments where you've been like, either were literally some form of test, or you felt kind of that feeling of like, oh, I feel like I'm being tested.
Yeah. I think in life in general will always give you some kind of test. But more recently, it's been my mental health. It just felt like my mental fortitude is getting strengthened in a sense that I recognize what I was going through. That I was going through like a lot of doubt in my head, a lot of like not necessarily identity crisis, but more like just feeling lack. If that makes sense. Like feeling less than. Yes, that's my word. But yeah, that's I feel like that's a test that I've been going through out of school and just in life. I've noticed that there were more negative thoughts that are coming in that's trying to get to me, but because I'm so aware of it, I'm able to test my own fortitude, to test my own courage, and even trust in the Lord, and even my own strength to go to trusted people and say, hey, I actually need help. Like, this is what I'm going through. Would you pray for me, or would you support me? Would you encourage me? Yeah. Like, even just being heard by people. Like, I've told one of our friends that I was like, hey, this is what I'm going through, and I feel like I'm good, but just like my mental health is just going crazy. And she just like told me, hey, that's not true, and this is who you are, and this is how I see you. And I was just like, okay. But in a sense, that was a test for me to like, I felt like it was a test for me to see my own strength in life and how far I've come along in life, because past Althea would not do that. Past Althea would not be vulnerable to people and say, this is what I'm going through. Even going to my siblings and say, this is what I'm going through. Like, I would have just, like, burdened it myself. But yeah, in life, that's where, more recently, that's a test that I've just, like, I'm going through. And I feel like I'm passing well.
You are.
How about you,
You're
friend?
passing.
Is there anything in life that you feel like is a testing of some sort?
Yes. I feel like probably the biggest one, sorry, I remember to be closer to the mic. I keep leaning back. Yeah, I think one of the larger ones kind of more recently has just been like with job stuff. Like definitely that first period when I quit my job and was like transitioning out, where I was like, okay, and then I'm gonna get a new job, because that's obviously what you do.
Yeah.
And then I didn't get a new job as quickly as I thought I was going to.
Right.
And it did feel a lot like, oh my gosh, like I'm taking test after test after test after test, in kind of a more literal sense, because I kept applying for jobs,
like job interviews,
and
applications.
I was writing up my resume and writing all my little cover letters and sending them out, and I kept getting like no, and I was like, okay. And when you're applying for a job, so much of it feels like you're marketing yourself, so it's really hard not to take it personal and not to feel like it's me. I'm the problem. No one likes me, and I'm gonna be poor and unemployed forever. And I'm gonna die under a bridge, and like just like a spiraling and being like, okay, what am I gonna do? And then the weird second test when I got my job of where I'm at now, and it was so much of creating the job, of kind of figuring out what that role looked like and how to work with people that I've never worked with before, and in a setting that I've never worked in before. Being a teacher is so structured. There's so many rules about what you have to do. And that was not the case when I started. They were like, you can be free. And I was like, terrifying. Okay. Whatever you say, boss. So I feel like there's been a lot of like little and large tests of kind of figuring out, okay, how do I adapt in this situation? And a lot of that feeling of the role, feeling like, man, I am carrying a lot, and if I do it wrong, everything falls apart, and it's all my fault. And again, kind of feeling like everything is secretly a test. And I feel like I got over that when there was a moment where it did feel like I failed, and it was like, I did not do this correctly. This was not the way I was supposed to handle it. Everything is bad and awful. And like, yes, it was not perfect, but nothing bad happened. Like I didn't get fired. I didn't get like a pay doc. My boss didn't hate me. My coworkers didn't hate me. Like the general consensus was like, all right, like pick yourself up and let's keep going kind of thing. And I was like, oh, okay. And I feel like that really unlocked like, again, I think for me, a lot of tests like centers around like a feeling of like a failure. And definitely feeling like I'm stupid is like the biggest fear in it, like, which again I feel like is the sense for a lot of people. And it was kind of, the test sort of ended in a sense when I hit the worst case scenario and the world didn't end. And I know that that's not the case for everyone, but it was enough for me to feel like, okay, I can kind of keep pushing forward, which actually leads me into kind of the thing I wanted to kind of talk about next, kind of to sort of like round us out, is obviously, whether you're in school, at any level, or if you're just out in the world, you're going to encounter tests. So what do you do to be prepared? Because we saw the numbers. When you do feel more prepared, it does help, but there can still be, you can have done everything, and there can still be that feeling that it's not going to work out. So do you have any advice for whether it's a written test or an emotional test, of what are the things maybe that you do to keep yourself grounded and say, I'm going to get through the test?
I think, honestly, so many things went through my head, like a list of things. But I'm going to say this. I think number one is that really you have to remember that tests do not define you or your world.
Yeah.
If you remember that, I think no matter what happens, you will be fine. Because I could go through and say, get it tattooed right here.
But you can always look at it.
Yes. Because I could always say, like, prepare ahead of time. Do not procrastinate. Like, rest, relax, like, hydrate, you know, all of those things. But really, at the end of the day, I think we have to remember that no matter what we do, it's let me find the words. Like, no matter the tests that you face or the tests that you have to do, people still love you. That you are still valuable. That you are not useless and you are not stupid. Even if it's a math exam that you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so dumb and I don't know all of this. Like, that does not define you. And I think that's what I'm going to say. Like,
yeah, I love that. I think that's so important to start with. It's just a reminder, like, so cliche, but like, this too shall pass. Like, you can push through it. I think I would say take a breath. Like, again, I know that's so cliche, but I feel like for me personally, as someone who struggles a lot with anxiety, usually when I start spiraling, I also stop breathing.
Yes, exactly.
So just whether you're about to take your written exam or if you're just in a problem, I feel like that's the thing that helps me most is I stop and I just go, okay, just stop and start breathing. Just breathe and get my heart rate back to normal. Because when your heart rate is pounding through and out of your head, you can't focus on anything. Nothing is going to happen. To just breathe and kind of recenter, like get back in the state of we're gonna be okay. Yes,
exactly. Yeah, that's a good reminder. That's literally what I did every single time I went into that piano room. I had to breathe. I've also did I pray, and I have like one song that I always sing to me, and that's Tremble by Mosaic. It's like, Jesus, Jesus. I'm not gonna say the whole thing because copyright. But I had to like sing over like the thoughts, like as you said, like if it just consumed me, I would not have been able to walk inside that room and do the things that I got to do. But so
I think even something else that you said earlier of like sharing with someone, like if again, whatever the kind of test is, if you have someone trusted, to tell them, hey, this thing is going on and I'm really nervous about it. I feel a lot of pressure. I'm about to go take my license exam. I'm gonna ask someone out on a date. I'm applying for a new job, whatever it is, and say,
tell somebody.
Would you be like supporting me? Do you have any advice for me? Like, to seek that extra help, because also again it gets you out of your head when you tell someone else. And personally, whenever I've gone to someone that I'm really stressed, they go, oh my gosh, I know exactly what you mean. I've also felt stressed, but I think you've got this. And I'm like, someone else believes in me. I got it. Like, it genuinely does help.
Yes, it does. And then I think last one before we end and close, is to just enjoy it. My mom always tell me, just enjoy it. I'm like, yes, I know, I'm gonna enjoy it. And that, I think, goes along the same vein of like remembering that it doesn't define like who you are. But like, I remember even before exams where I could have just like reviewed so much more, but instead I just went for an ice cream with my friends, and that relaxation and just enjoying life too helped me probably retain the information that I just studied. Take breaks and enjoy that, you know? So
absolutely. Yeah. Tests can be super stressful. They can sometimes get you in a really bad head place, and you can start getting really, really worried about what happens if I fail the test. But there are good things that come out of tests.
Yes.
Testing can show you that you're stronger than you realized. They can build character and perseverance, but also whatever the outcome, they don't define you.
Yes.
And that's super important to remember. You are more than a letter grade. You are more than a less than ideal social interaction.
Yes.
You are more than the moments that you don't succeed, which is huge to remember.
Yes. And with our powers combined, we will get through the tests together.
Yes, we will.
All right.
If you have any tests coming up,
yes.
put them down
Let
below.
us know.
Comment. We'll be rooting for you. We know that you've got this.
You got this.
If you've ever learned something really cool from a test, either in school you just learned something cool, or in life you feel like you got a bigger lesson out of it, feel free to share. If you have a test story about one that haunts you, like my misstudied math test, feel free to comment below and we'll commiserate and be glad that we aren't doing that anymore.
Yes, comment below or tag us on Instagram. Like, we want to hear your stories. That's what we're here for.
And while you're tagging us, also follow us
at wopc.podcast on all social media platforms.
We're all the places, probably.
Yes, where you can find us. If you can't find us there, then we're not there.
Then we're not there. It's as simple as that.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you and we love you. This has been your host, Althea.
And your host, Maya. And we'll see
you
you next time. Bye.
I got us there. I got us to the end with our usual ending.
Nailed it.